بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وآله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهديه واستنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. Now, what is obligatory on those who are present with the dying person after he dies? There are a number of things that we should pay attention to when a person dies. Jazakallah khair. The scholars say that, I'm going to list them and then we may go to details or not. First of all, you have to verify that he died, because this is a big problem if you consider someone to be dead and you go with the proceedings of his preparation and you bury him and then he is not dead. Once I was researching, at night, people who work at night, what is the name of their shift? Graveyard. Why is it called graveyard? I had a passion, whenever I hear something, I'd like to know the origin of it. So that was a long time ago. I don't know if it's true or not, but this is what I remember. Long ago, when people died, they did not have means of verification whether they're dead or not. So, if someone is not breathing or he seems to be not breathing, not moving, they considered him dead and they used to put him in a coffin and bury him. And they discovered later on that some of those buried, when they opened their coffins, they found scratching on the cover of the coffin from the inside, which meant that the person was not dead. He woke up, found himself in a grave, in a coffin, and he tried to get out and could not. So they decided that they would tie a rope or a string to the deceased finger, bury him, and the end of the string would have a bell at the graveyard. Yet they discovered that the bell was so weak, nobody heard it, because a lot of those who woke up in the middle of the night, rang the bell, nobody heard, they suffocated and died. So they appointed someone to sit at the graveyard at the night time. So if he hears the ring, he knows that the person is not dead, and they would take him out, and that is why they called it graveyard shift. So whether this is true or not, you have to ask Sheikh Google, and he inshallah would be able to tell you what to do. So first of all, you have to verify that he's dead. Now, in the first point, it says that you have to close his eyes and supplicate or make dua for him. The origin of this is when Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam visited Abu Salama. And Abu Salama was the brother of the Prophet Alaihi Salatu Wasallam, of suckling. So, who is else? Hamza. The three are brothers from suckling. Hamza, the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ. So he visited him while he was on his dying bed, but he died. And as he died, he looked upwards. And the Prophet ﷺ said that, verily, when the soul is snatched, the eyes follow it. And these are the final delicate moments of a person's life. As his soul is getting out, there are reflections, there are sense in his eyesight. He sees his soul coming out. And that is why the majority of people, when they die with their eyes wide open. And usually looking to the sky. Why? Because it's watching its soul departing the body, and it's not a very pleasant thing to see. So the first thing to do is to close the deceased eyes, either by 2 fingers or by the hand itself. Because in Islam, a deceased way of looking has to be protected. So if he is scary, if he is intimidating, if he gives you a bad feeling, Islam tells you to cover all of this up. And that is why we close his eyes. And the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, do not call on yourself. We went through this. Now he's dead. The angels are there, they're saying Ameen. So you have to know what to say. And subhanallah, Salama, she says that when Abu Salama died, and he was among the first to migrate to Medina, and he was the companion of the Prophet ﷺ, he's his brother from suckling. When he died, this was a calamity. And she says that I heard the Prophet say, alayhi salatu wasalam, whoever is struck by a calamity and says, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raj'un, verily we are to Allah and to Him we shall return. Allahumma jurni fi musibati. I think the translation in your hands says, Allahumma give me refuge. And refuge is different than reward me. The correct translation, do you have it, or maybe I'm ahead of schedule a little bit. So, okay, we will pass by it, inshallah. So she said, Allahumma ajurni fi musibati wa khlufni khayran minha. Oh Allah, reward me in my calamity and substitute me with something that is better than it. She said, when I remembered the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, I said this because he taught us how to say it whenever you're struck by calamity. But then I said, who can be better than Abu Salama? In her eyes, no one is better than the companion of the Prophet ﷺ, one of the first to migrate to Medina, so and so and so. But she said this believing in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Who substituted him? The Prophet ﷺ. Soon afterwards, the Prophet proposed to her and she became the mother of the believers. Subhanallah. So always remember this dua. There are so many times that we have places that we're supposed to say something and we don't say it. The Prophet tells us ﷺ, in an authentic hadith that if you make wudu and sleep, and you wake up in the middle of the night and you say La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah lahul mulku wa lahul hamdu wa ala kulli shay'in qadir subhanallah alhamdulillah Allahu akbar la ilaha wa la hawla quwwata illa billah, and you supplicate, Allah will give you whatever you wish. Allah give me a raise, Allah will give it to you. A better job, Allah will give it to you. You just supplicate, say this, and you try it. I have brothers coming to me saying that ya akhi, it's been 2 months now and nothing happened. And I asked them, when you wake up, do you say the dua? I said, no, Sheikh. When I wake up, I just go to the bathroom, I wash, I make wudu, and then I wake up and I say, okay, now I make the dua. It's too late. The minute you wake up, while you're on your bed, you say this dua. First of all. Second of all, do you go to your bed while performing wudu? I said, no, ya Sheikh, if I make wudu, I will not sleep. So then how do you want Allah to answer your supplication? You have to follow. Likewise, there's a calamity. The minute you go out, this is inshallah not a bad omen, it's inshallah, but it's an example. You go out, you find your car smashed, and the man ran away. What's the first thing you say? May Allah curse him. May Allah burn him in hell. May Allah... Ya akhi, say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Allahumma ajurni fi musibati wa akhlifni khayran minha. You never know what Allah is the provider. You never know what Allah will bring you and provide you. So this is a reminder. Always learn the dua. Always learn how to connect your heart to Allah Azza wa Jal in every small and big thing. You will be amazed of the results, inshaAllah. So, okay, one of the supplications that the Prophet said, alayhi salam, at that moment, he said, oh Allah, forgive Abu Salama and raise his level among the rightly guided. And what do you have the translation? Hello? After lunch, usually all the blood goes to the stomach for digesting. So a lot of the people say, they're like zombies. So try to wake up, Follow with us. What does he say? Okay, and what? And let the remaining offspring be like him. The hadith, وَخْلُفْهُ فِي عَقِبِهِ فِي الْغَابِرِينَ. Ukhluf, meaning to substitute or to take the place of. So the most correct translation is not to make his offspring like him, because this dua is said to who? to any dead person. So if the deceased who just died was a rock star, I would say, oh Allah, make his offspring like him. Would this be suitable? No. So the best translation in Arabic, وَخْلُفْهُ فِي عَقِبِهِ, meaning that you, Allah, substitute or succeed him in his offspring. Meaning, now he used to take care of his offspring, he's dead. Who takes care of his offspring? I'm asking that Allah takes care of your offspring. So this is one of the greatest dua. If a person dies, the most thing that he takes care and he cares about and worries about is his offspring. So if he knows that people would ask Allah, that Allah would take care of his offspring instead of him, the deceased, he would feel much better with that, inshallah. And expand for him in his grave. How do you expand? The grave is this big. It's not going to be bigger, would it? Physically, no. But you have to be careful that this is a transitional period between this life and the hereafter. It's called Darul Barzakh. Barzakh means barrier. So it is the barrier between our life and the hereafter. In the grave, there isn't enough space to sit down, right? But we know that the deceased, the dead person, is being made to sit up by the two angels, Munkar and Nakir. And he's being questioned. So when you say expand in his grave, this is true. For the deceased in the life of Barzakh, if Allah Azza wa Jal Subhanahu wa ta'ala wishes, he will expand the grave to that righteous person. And he will open a window for him from paradise. And he will get from its fragrance and beautiful air, to the extent that he says, Allah, make the sa'ah, make the day of judgment now. I want to go to my paradise. May Allah make our graves like this. So he says that expand his grave and illuminate it for him. It can be as dark as night. And it can be lit as if it's daytime. I was speaking to my wife a couple of nights ago, which is something I rarely do. But I was telling her about death and the grave, and she was terrified. And she said, "Oh, I'm afraid of death." And I tell her, "Honey, why are you afraid of death?" She said, "Oh, it's dark, it's lonely." May Allah have mercy on us all. This is a grave. And you have to go through this phase. Whether it's dark or light, this depends on your deeds. Good deeds make it daytime. Makes it as wide as you can see, as far as you can see. But if you're sinful, if you have lots of bad deeds, you have to be afraid. So you think and conceive, you contemplate on what you want in your grave. You have all the right to do whatever you want to do, but be certain that whatever you do, you are actually filling your grave with it. Fill it with good deeds, wallahi, you will have paradise in your grave. Fill it with bad deeds, you know what will happen. Okay. Now, the Shaykh did not mention this, but the books of fiqh, the majority, if not all, mention this thing. That when a person dies, the first thing I do is close his eyes. The second thing I do is I pull up his lower jaw and tie it to his head with a string or with a rope. Because when a person dies, all the muscles, all the joints in the body are loosened up. If we bring someone on here and we tell him lie on the desk, on the table, and pretend to be dead, he cannot. He will maybe he'll dangle his tongue. Maybe there are people when they die, they dangle their tongue. You can see the tongues coming out. They have no control and all the muscles are gone. It's reported that there was a funeral being carried on the necks of men, and it passed by a knowledgeable person. So he said, this man is not dead. Get him down. So we washed him, we shrouded him, we're taking him to bury him. So no, he's not dead. So they took him down, they put the bed down, and he brought a whip, and he started beating him like crazy. And the people say, hey, that person, what are you doing? And he did not listen to them. Few minutes later, the guy shook and woke up. And the man said, La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah. And he said to them, the man was not dead. So they told him, how do you know? He said, when you brought the funeral in front of me, his feet were erect. And when a person dies, the joints are loosened and the muscles are loosened. And that's why if you see in atrocities and in places of war, in TV, when you see someone is dead, killed on the ground, you find them lying in a position that we cannot imitate. You find someone's arm twisted in a way, his leg is in a different way, which shows you that no one can be like this except if he is so loose. And that's why scholars say you have to, first of all, one of the signs that you know person is dead, that this, what do you call this, torso? Temple, okay. This place goes inside. Now, this is sound and mashallah, good. But if you die, it concaves inside. Why? Because the muscles and the joints of the jaw are loose. And the first thing it goes is his lower jaw is released. So part of not scaring people and for the protection of the deceased from anything coming inside his stomach, insects or whatever, you should gently push his upper jaw upwards and you tie his jaw to his head with a string or with a rope. Jazakallah khair. Understood, inshallah. Okay. Part of the things that you should do when a person dies immediately is to loosen up his joints. Now remember, if he dies, Allah yarhamuh, may Allah forgive him and have mercy on him. But I have to wash him. I have to take off his clothes. I have to shroud him. So he has to be sort of flexible, because if he's stiff like this, I cannot get his arm down. So what do? I have to loosen his limbs, his joints. And this is done by coming to his arm and pull it this way. And then his shoulder, pull it this way. So it's not stiff. I do the same to the other arm, and I do the same to the feet, to the leg, and to the thigh itself. This is what is done usually. Now remember, is this sunnah? Is this sunnah? Did I say hadith? No, it's not sunnah. Akhi, sunnah is an innovation. No. When it comes to dealing with the deceased, we have 2 instructions from the Prophet ﷺ. Wash him with water and sidr, lotus. That's it. Okay. How? How many times? Can we use soap or not? Should the water be cold or hot? Can we wash him in the open? Or it has to be in a tent? Nothing is mentioned. Wash him. So if I take the deceased and dip him in the swimming pool and take him out, I've washed him. Is this okay? Yes, okay. Shroud him. You have to make kafan, shrouding him. So 1 piece, 2 pieces, 3 pieces, 5 pieces. The sunnah does not say anything. So I just shroud him. Does it have to be white? Can it be red? Can I shroud him in his own clothes? So what governs this is 1 or 2 hadiths. The rest is not an innovation. Rather, it is ijtihad from the scholars, out of practice. Because we've been washing the dead for how long? Since Adam. This is something that is very easy to do. But we complicate things, or we make things difficult, or we make it easy. So, though it is not from the sunnah, But this is out of practice the best way to treat or to handle a dead person. So we loosen his joints. Also, it is recommended that we take off his clothes. Though we're not burying him yet, we're not washing him yet, but we take off his clothes. Scholars say that this is highly recommended because the warmer the body is, the closer and faster the decay would come to it. It would become decayed and rotten faster. So they take off the clothes so that it would not keep the temperature down. And the sunnah is to cover him with an ample cover that covers all the body. Again, after that, part of the sunnah is to place him on the bed that we will wash him, or what do you call this? The desk or whatever, you know what I mean. There is a special bed where we usually wash the deceased, and it's made of logs, aluminium, iron, whatever, though it has openings so that the water and whatever would come down freely. So they say that once he's dead, you should place him on that, but this is not a sunnah. So if I would like to place my relative on his bed, cover him up until the time for washing, this is permissible. Among these are part of the sunnahs. Covering the body with something that covers the whole body. This hadith we have that the Prophet himself ﷺ was covered by a stripped Yemeni cloak that was drawn over his body. Not stripped, that is striped. So burd, it has to be striped. Now, do we have to cover our deceased with this? Is it part of the sunnah? Yes or no? Or it's an issue of dispute? It's an issue of dispute. No. Now, this happened with the Prophet ﷺ. It so happened that they had this striped cloak from Yemen there. But this doesn't mean that all deceased people, we have to cover them with a striped cloak. If it's one color, it's okay. If it's red, if it's green, if it's blue, regardless. This is not part of the sunnah to be specific in that type of covering the deceased body. And there is a difference between sunnahs. There are two types of sunnah. Sunnah that is a form of worship. If you do it, you're rewarded because you believe in the reward, and it's part of the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And there is a sunnah that if you do it, you're not rewarded. But the Prophet used to do it. Okay, why am I not rewarded? Because the Prophet did it out of tradition, out of human nature, out of custom. So if you do it, this is not something that you're rewarded for. For example, the Prophet ﷺ used to go from one place to the other on the back of a mule. He had a mule, it's called Juljul. That's the name of the mule. They used to call everything. They used to even call their shirts. They had a camel known as al-Qaswa or al-Adba. The horse is known so and so. So everything was given a name. So if someone Sunday morning rides the mule and goes to work, to his office in Emirates, Burj Al Arab, he works there. And he's coming on, what are you doing? So, I'm doing sunnah. What's wrong with you? If you don't know the hadith, the Prophet used to go from one place to the other on a mule back. Is this a sunnah? Will I be rewarded? Yes or no? No. This is part of the Prophet's way of living. It has nothing to do with Islam. Likewise, the Prophet used to wear umama. He used to wear the turban. Now, a lot of the brothers, when I pray, usually I don't wear this in Saudi. Usually I go topless, meaning I don't put anything on my head, and you know what I mean. So, people, when prayer comes, in so many places, they tell me, Sheikh, you pray. And I refrain, I don't like to pray. And I know people don't like me when I pray without anything on my head. They said, no, we want you to pray. So people come after prayer, Sheikh, you know that you have to cover your head and the prayer. So no, you don't have to cover your head. So the Prophet used to wear a turban. Yes, but he never ever indicated to us that turban or umama or kufiya or whatever is essential for prayer or it is recommended. Never. So it is not part of the religion. The Prophet used to wear, what do you call it, the uzra, the apron or the lower garment. So if I come in Friday khutbah wearing what our friends wear it in India or in Indonesia, and I would like to make my Friday sermon, would you think the people would say that, oh, this is sunnah? They will pull me down from it, most likely. Why? Because this is not the custom. So you have to differentiate whether this is part of the religion or part of the custom of the Prophet ﷺ. The Arabs at the time of the Prophet, the companions, used to plait their hair in braids. The Arabs, you get someone like Umar or some with long braids. Now, if someone does it today, would it be acceptable and part of the sunnah? No, they would say that this is doing a ponytail. What is this? This is imitating the kuffar. So you have to differentiate between what is part of the deen and what is part of the culture. Okay, now covering the body, this is done for all, except for someone who died in the state of ihram, a person performing pilgrimage or performing umrah. The Prophet ﷺ said about that person who was in Arafah. He was on his camel on the day of Arafah. What a beautiful death. Yani it is one of the most beautiful deaths a person could have. In his ihram, in the day of Arafah, on the sacred month of Dhul Hijjah, supplicating, he's thrown over his camel's back. Not only that, the camel stumbles on him and kills him. So the Prophet says to them, alayhi salatu wassalam, the hadith, wash him with water and lotus blossoms. Number one, instruction. Wrap him in his 2 sheets of cloth, but do not put perfumed oil on him, nor cover his head. The Shaykh says, and face, for verily Allah will resurrect him on the day of resurrection, making talbiyah. Talbiyah is saying, labbaik Allahumma labbaik. So, in this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ clearly indicates to us that we do not add anything more to him than his 2 pieces of cloth, and we do not cover his head and hadith and face. Shaykh al-Albani authenticated the insertion of face, meaning that you are not allowed to cover his face. Other scholars said no. This addition, face, is not authentic. And they verified this by saying, why did the Prophet ﷺ forbade them from covering his head? Because he's in the state of ihram. If I were in the state of ihram, can I cover my head? No. Can I cover my face? Can a muhrim cover his face? Yes. If I'm sleeping and I would like to cover my face only, this is permissible. The instruction is not to wear the hadith. How do we know what to wear and what not to wear? When a man came to the Prophet, said, alayhi salam, what should a muhrim wear? The Prophet flipped the question and he said, a muhrim should not wear a turban, a shirt, a sarawil pants, a cloak with something to a burnus that covers the head, and the shoes. So the Prophet told us what not to wear. So now, did he say do not cover your face? No. He said don't cover your head, but covering the face itself, this is permissible. This is what Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen, may Allah have mercy on his soul, says that for a muhrim, it's okay if you're cold in Arafah especially, or in Muzdalifah, that is. When you want to sleep and it's cold, you may cover your face, but you may not cover your head. And likewise for the person who died while in the state of ihram, he must be shrouded in his two ihram, but not to cover his head. The face, it's okay to cover, and Allah knows best. Among the things that we should do when someone dies is that we should hasten in his preparation. As the Prophet said, hasten the funeral rites. This includes everything. That is washing, shrouding, preparing him for prayer and burial. And the more it is quicker and faster and easier, the more a good sign that is, inshallah, that it's a good death, inshallah. Not generally, but mainly speaking. Among the things that must be done, that they should bury the funeral in the town that he died in it. And they should not transport him to anywhere else, because this opposes the instruction of hasten the funeral rites. Mother Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, when a brother of hers died in Abyssinia, in one of the valleys, they carried him all the way back to Mecca. And she said that I do not regret anything more than if I had the choice, I would have buried him where he died. And An-Nawawi also said that it is not authentic to transport a dead person from one place to the other. He should be buried wherever he dies. And this answers a question that came earlier in the Q&A session. They asked, what is the ruling on transporting the body, the corpse, to a different place? Sheikh Al-Albani says that this is completely forbidden. Other sheikhs, other scholars say that we have to see if it is part of his will, he requested this in his will,